This season, Jim and I set out to find the best trout destination we could. For us, best meant pristine surroundings, limitless water, and wild trout that would take a well-placed fly. We did our research, and this is where we ended up. This is Fly Fusion Television. Before spring runoff, the rivers and the valleys run cold and clear, and the snow in the high Rockies awaits summer warmth. It's during this time that it's insanity to dust off the fly gear and go out and explore. Well, almost insanity.
So you grew up not far from here, and you fished this river for these fish.
Yeah.
But I think you told me not right here.
I did. I grew up around this area, and this is what's kind of interesting to me is that growing up around this area, I've actually never been up this high on this particular system. But I mean, one of the things that I remember most about kind of exploring the area was on, like, leading up to the weekend. It could be like a Thursday night or a Friday night or whatever. My dad, he would get out the big topographical maps. You know, we would gather around him at the table, and he would be like, "Okay, guys, boys, we're going here this weekend," and we'd look on the map, and he'd say, "This is the logging road we're going to take," and so, you know, to be able to be part of this today, being able to look at it and go, you know what, I'm back where I grew up, basically, and exploring water that I haven't actually explored before, which is really cool because I've explored a lot of water around here and fished a lot of water.
Well, it's neat that fly fishing, to me, it's kind of a combination of fishing familiar water, or even what you might call home water you fish all the time, along with the new stuff. And for me, I need both. I don't want to fish the same place 100%. All the time. Yeah. And this is unique, I think, because this is both for you. This is the home area, but new water, and that's so the exploration component of fly fishing can happen close to home. Yeah. And it's pretty cool to find something really neat, really close to home that you didn't know about it. Yeah.
I mean, it is. It's like I don't know if there's any other word than exciting, right? Like I feel like, well, I don't know. Do you ever lose? And I'm not commenting on age or anything, but do you ever lose that?
Not overtly.
Not overtly. But do you ever lose that? Do you ever lose that feeling? The night before you're going, steelhead fishing or bull trout fishing or dry fly fishing for cutthroat. Do you ever lose that feeling where you have trouble falling asleep the night before because you're so excited?
Well, no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of got to be there.
Yeah.
Or if you're not excited about doing it, you're probably not going to bother doing it.
Yeah. No, that's right. I'm Derek Bird. I'm the founding editor of Fly Fusion magazine.
I'm Jim McLennan, and I write the watermarks column near the end of the magazine every issue. And I guess I've written in the magazine right since its beginning. And I also am pretty much the final set of eyes that look at the stories before they go to the printer. So people can blame me for the misplaced commas and the apostrophes that shouldn't be there. And
I got involved in Fly Fusion because really I wanted to help out my little brother. And so right from the very start, there's the family connection. And he called me one day and he said, I have this idea for a magazine. That's what made me actually decide that, this is a direction that I'd like to go.
The exploration can take place in somewhere halfway around the world that you have to save money for years in order to participate in. Or it can be something that's kind of been going on right under your nose all along, and I'm fascinated by that stuff. If I hear about a little stream near where I live and somebody kind of on the sly gives me a nudge and says, "You ever fish this little creek here? You might want to try it." That really gets my attention, and this is This is kind of like that, you know. You ever fish the Kootenay for bull trout in the spring? Say what?
Explore the majestic Canadian Rocky Mountains, where clear freestone rivers and pristine mountain lakes are home to wild, pure-strain West Slope cutthroat trout and impressive monster bull trout. Let our local Fernie guides lead you, challenge you, and inspire you in one of the best fly fishing destinations in North America. Fernie, British Columbia.
Guiding is, a choice I made. I got away from the big city back in 2000 and moved to Fernie because I was looking for more of a lifestyle to bring up a small family, and it's a great little mountain town with lots of activities. And I'm lucky that my passion for fly fishing gets fulfilled there even after the long winter months. And raising kids in that environment is just a dream. 2 of my kids are casting a fly rod, and they're 13 and 12 years old. I've got 2 others that are 10 and 6, and they're itching to get a hold of a fly rod now too. So, that's just kind of what brings me to the river.
It's one of those classic early season trips, right? Where you're like so excited to get out there fishing, but you're not necessarily going because the conditions are optimal. Right. You're going because, there's been the long layoff, and you've seen all the videos, and everything's got you all pumped for the next season. And so we're gonna try to, shake things up a little bit. The water's a little bit dark. We'll use some of the brighter fly colors as far as the streamer patterns.
We're trying to hit that water that's moving, but it's not moving terribly quickly. We don't want to fish the fastest water, and I think we're not trying to fish the still water. We're trying to fish the medium speed, or perhaps even the slowly moving water.
We're going to be swinging the flies. We're going to be swinging them pretty slow and getting right down, because along with the color of the water, the temperature of the water it's really cold as well. Like sometimes when I'm looking out at the river, I'm actually seeing chunks of ice float by.
If you want to get the fish to eat your fly, what you have to do is make that easy for him. And in really cold water, that means put the fly in a place where he doesn't have to go very far and he doesn't have to go very fast to eat it. Under these cold water conditions, the fish are not going to chase very much. So you got to take the fly to them.
We fished hard that day, and I liked Jim's phrase, right? If you're not catching fish, you gotta fish harder. And so I was fishing harder, and it still didn't work. We just, we fished hard all day. We fished a number of different runs. We tried darker flies, we tried lighter flies, we tried bright flies. You name it, we tried it, and we just didn't get into anything.
I believe we were doing what we were supposed to. If you interview Paul, you might say, man, this would have been a different story if those guys had done what I told them.
There's not a lot of bull trout in this river. Like, a lot of people think it's just full of them, but they're in only certain locations, and you got to go and find them. And we had super difficult visibility. One of the comments was the water was clear as far as the draft of the boat was, and that was true.
Sometimes I'm the type of fly fisherman where I'm like, I'm here and it's good there. But at the start of the season, I'm not that guy. I want to get out there and be the person to say to my buddies, yeah, the fishing's good now, right? Because you're the guy who's done the exploring. And that's the thing, when you're exploring, there has to be a little bit more leeway sometimes as far as, you know what, maybe we might get into a couple, we might get into one, we might get into none, but when you're exploring, that's all part of it.
Didn't have any luck. I think our hands got frozen before too long and we had to give up.
Sometimes, you know, in fly fishing and lots of other parts of life, you feel a little more like Inspector Clouseau than Sherlock Holmes. And one of my fly fishing mentors told me once, if you're only happy when everything turns out perfectly, you're not going to be happy very often. So you've got to learn to be satisfied with partial success. Now, I would have been really happy with partial success, but this is certainly, I think, got both of us excited about doing this even more than before we came and did this first trip. Because we got to look at it. We see what the country's like, we see what the river's like, and we're imagining what it would be like to be in a beautiful place like this, catching fish.
I'm Jim McLennan, and I write the Watermarks column in each issue of Fly Fusion magazine. I've also written a book called Watermarks, which is a collection of my best magazine pieces over the last 30 years. In it, there's sections on the where, the how, and my favorite, the why of fly fishing. Trout Streams of Alberta is a book about the great fly fishing in my home province. You can purchase either book online by going to troutstreamsofalberta.com or by calling 1-888-435-9624.
So we thought we'd head out, and we cut the shoot short by a day, and we thought we'd come back and give it a try a few weeks later, and maybe spring would be here. And it's still pretty cold, but spring is in the air. There's a little bit of warmth. There's no ice left on the river, and so we're really hopeful that today we'll get into some fish. Today will be the day.
This spring bull trout fishing is kind of a low percentage game. It's not unlike steelhead fishing. And I was just thinking that we don't do this because it's easy. In fact, we do it because it's hard.
You're always wondering what's around the next bend. You know, should we fish this hole harder? Should we try some more flies? Should we try something different? Or should we just jet upstream and find another hole that, you know, maybe they're stacked up there? And, you know, exploring and going up channels and trying to find new pools and stuff makes it really that much more addictive.
We're fishing these streamers, we're making a cast pretty much straight across stream, maybe up and across a little bit, throw a little bit of an upstream bend. It'll allow the fly to sink deeply, and a nice slow retrieve. We don't want to ask these fish to chase quickly. We want them to notice the fly and think it's another fish that's alive, but it's close enough that they can maybe take a whack at it and get an easy meal. What do you got there? That's a handsome fish, isn't it?
Yeah,
Heck, that looks like you go 14, 15 inches.
if I hold them out a long ways, it'll look.
You want to explain the fancy technique you used? Or?
Well, I was having a heck of a time casting in the wind, and because the fly's quite heavy with the sink tip, and I was having a heck of a time, and I was trying to actually avoid hooking Jim.
That's a good plan.
I just kind of rolled it out, and it went out about 10 or 15 feet, but then it actually started to swing quite nicely, and it picked it up as soon as it swung. As soon as it swung, it was right on.
So it was like a complete accident then?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Good.
Right at the start of the day, I got fish right away. Like it was just one right after the other. Fish on, fish landed, fish on, fish landed. And I was starting to feel bad for Jim.
Yeah, he's going to get all the girls from the show, isn't he? I can just tell.
At every fly angler's core, a level of persistence and optimism resides, which produces hope that the perfect run exists around the next bend. A hope they'll find a stretch of river that will need to be named because it draws them back so often. They'll call it the Canyon Run or Branch 18 or the Confluence. Their new sanctuary is secluded and large fish rise easily to a dry or take a well-swung fly. Something about this place makes them feel alive. Author Jack London once said, "The proper function of a man is to live, not to exist." To which I might humbly add, when I explore trout waters, I'm never merely existing.
So I learned something about Jim today, and that is that I think that he was spotting me fish. Like I was feeling really good because I'd hooked a few fish, but then I realized, because then he went on this absolute tear. You know, he warmed up with a few big cutthroat. And then all of a sudden he hooks into this massive bull trout.
You know, fish that jump are great because they tell you immediately how big they are. Fish that don't jump are also great because they increase the suspense factor of wondering how big the fish is.
Yeah, this would be the biggest bull trout I've ever caught, that's for sure. If I catch him.
Once we got him in close enough to see him, it was pretty clear that he was maybe not an exceptional fish for this river, but certainly an exceptional fish for this fisherman.
So Paul, tell us how big do you think this fish is?
Well, we've got a measuring device on the side of this cradle.
Okay.
This fish is 31 to the fork.
31, wow, okay.
31 to the fork. That's a good Kootenay River fish.
It's certainly the biggest bull trout I've ever caught.
And he's just been on this, like one fish after another for probably the last 45 minutes. And I've been catching nothing for the last 45 minutes. So I think that what he did was he spotted me because he thought, I'm gonna make sure that I don't kill this poor young man's ego right away. I'll let him catch a few fish and then I'll start trying.
That beautiful pale salmon pink spots along the side.
You want to feel smart in this game, but I think we're
Maybe we were smart because we were persistent, but we were also very fortunate that the conditions were better and the fish were here and the fish were cooperating in a nice way for us. So we had a wonderful day, and it really couldn't have turned out better.
Fishing with Jim and Derek's been great. Two guys that are just super easy to get along with. You know, Jim's a legend in himself, you know. You think you know a lot as a guide and been doing it for so long, but he's a guy that you can learn so much from in just, you know, a few minutes on the water.
I think both of us really enjoyed fishing with Paul. There's a funny relationship, you know, between the guide and his fishermen. Both Derek and I have been guided many times, and I at least was a guide for a long time. And from the fisherman's point of view, you don't want to disappoint him. He's kind of like the coach, you know. Get in there, boys, and go do your thing. Yeah, right. We'll go get him, coach. Put us in, put us in.
Derek, you know, pretty quiet guy, but philosophical in his own way, but the humor that comes out of that guy just makes the day go by so fast. You get sidetracked in listening to stories about squirrel rescues, and I can't imagine how he would do mouth to mouth on a squirrel, but anyways, he saved one once, and we had a good chuckle about that.
As fly anglers, I think it's hardwired into our DNA to explore. When I fly fish, I don't feel isolated. Even a place where I'm more secluded, I don't feel isolated, I feel more connected.